Good evening. A quiet neighborhood south of Edmonton was rocked by gunfire this afternoon. Several RCMP units were called out to Aspen Crescent in Leduc's Suntry neighborhood around 2:30. Police confirm a 25-year-old man was shot 3 times there. Tonight, a 37-year-old man is in custody facing charges. Our Sean Amato has more from Leduc. Sean.
Joel, a young couple with a baby will not be having a good Christmas here in Leduc. One man is in hospital suffering from several gunshot wounds tonight. Another man is in custody. Police confirmed that 4 people were in this home around 2 o'clock this afternoon. A man, a woman, a baby, and a 37-year-old man who is described as the ex-husband of the woman. Police say that is their suspect. Neighbors say a 25-year-old man was shot 3 times, once in the chest, once in the shoulder, and once in the arm.
First up, Kevin Mckenzie, new member to Urban Combat, new part of the community. I went through an event on December 24th. Came home from work. It's about 2:30. I had just gotten home, and my wife had received a phone call from her ex-husband saying that he wanted to come and grab their son's Nintendo DS charger. And my wife said, "Okay, that's fine. Come on over. Grab it." So I was kind of hanging out in the bedroom, kind of taking a nap, playing with the dog, and heard a knock at the door. And my wife went to answer the door. And the next thing I heard was, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" my wife was saying. And so it kind of struck a nerve with me. I kind of started to listen up. And then the next thing I heard was, "Kevin, come out here." So as I came out into the living room, the first thing I seen was my wife on the floor and her ex-husband standing over top of her. As I proceeded to go towards him, he raised a gun from behind his back and said, "I've had enough." As soon as he said that, let 3 shots go. First one hitting my arm, and the next 2 missing, hitting the wall and the water cooler behind me.
When you walked out, and well, first off, actually, from when you even heard your wife first saying, "What are you doing?" right away, did it register? Like, did you feel that SNS? Like, could you tell, like, something's wrong here? Yeah. Was it that kind of a feeling?
Right away I felt it. My heart just spiked and everything just...
So right at that moment you felt that SNS like
right
that?
Away, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Then when you come out, so what, you feeling the SNS, you walk out in the hallway. She was down on the ground, you were saying?
She was on the ground. She was behind the couch, so I couldn't see her. I could see her hands above the couch.
Oh wow, so that image of just the hands behind the couch. Did he have his hands on her at this point, or was he just standing over top of her?
He was standing directly over top of her, just like this.
So a really intense, really high image.
Really just mean glaze, just mean. It was wicked.
That's interesting that's the glaze you say, like what, just that. Was he yelling, screaming, or was it just a look of it?
Completely silent.
Just no interpersonal communication.
Methodical.
Yeah, it's like that abyss we talk about, right?
That's exactly it. Just like he was gonna kill her.
And at that point then, so the gun, you couldn't see the gun at that point?
I couldn't see the gun, but I seen this man standing over my wife, and I wasn't just going to stand around and let some guy. I thought he hit her, is what I thought.
Oh, okay.
I thought he knocked her to the ground with a hip.
Did it register to you, like you instantaneously identified who this guy was?
I knew exactly.
You knew exactly.
I've seen him lots. I've been with my wife for 4 years, so
you knew. So it wasn't a matter of even like, it was all happening so fast. You knew right away who it was.
I knew
thought
exactly
he hit her. Okay.
As soon as he came in.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard my wife say, "What are you doing?" just instant trouble.
Instantaneously.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was drunk and just being an idiot,
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. So I seen this man standing over my wife, and I went to rush him. Like, I didn't really know what else to do. I was just, I was going in there for a fight then. Right?
Yeah.
I was gonna go and do what I could, and I got maybe 4 steps towards him. I was still maybe 20 feet away, and up came the gun, and I let those 3 shots go.
And the first one hit you in the right forearm?
First one hit me in the right forearm. Came in through here, and came out on the bottom side here.
Exit on the back side.
At that time, I spun around, and I kind of went behind a counter, so there's a counter here, and another wall here, and I could hear him. He started running towards me, so I went and ran back towards our bedroom. So we live in a mobile home, so it's really long and narrow. So I ran towards the back and got into our bedroom, and as he started to come through the wall, I would hit the wall with my arm, and you could feel him being knocked back. And then he'd come again, and he'd push, and I'd hit it once again, and he came back, and at that time, he shot through the door twice. believe that's when one hit me. I believe that's the one in my chest hit me. And then he started coming through again. And then I did it again, twice more. And then another 2 shots came through the door. And then all of a sudden he was just gone. He'd left the door. And I didn't know where he went. And then, so I just kind of, I froze for a minute. I was just kind of thinking, like, what can I do? What's my next step? What do I do now? And then as soon as that happened, I heard my wife scream, please don't kill my daughter. Please don't kill my daughter. And that's all I heard. I didn't hear him say anything. My baby wasn't crying. But apparently at that time, he held her and my daughter at gunpoint on the couch. So when he had left, well, when he first initially came to chase me, my wife ran into the bedroom, grabbed our daughter, and as she was making her way out of the house, he caught up with him. That's when he left me and went to get them. He grabbed her, said, hey, get on the couch, held her and my daughter at gunpoint. And at that point, I went into our back bathroom, which is at the very, very end of the trailer. And I started yelling and screaming and breaking stuff. I was breaking the mirrors. We had little porcelain ornaments in there. I started smashing them. I threw one through a window, so I broke out the window. And through our bedroom, there's a little window from our bedroom to our bathroom, so you could see into our bedroom from our bathroom. I seen the door open and him start to come in. And as he got closer, that's when I jumped out the window. As I jumped out the window, my wife also went out the front door. As he was coming at me, she got out of the house and ran across to a neighbor. When I got out, I kind of tried to collect myself for just a split second, and then I jumped over a fence and ran into a neighbor's house where we called 911.
And so that, it turns out after you called 911, how long did it take for the ambulance to actually get there?
About 30 minutes. About
30 minutes. And that forearm shot, the very first shot that you were hit with, turned out to be an artery shot, right? So you were losing a tremendous amount of blood. And paramedics actually said that they were amazed you were even still conscious, correct?
Yeah, my one friend came to the police station afterwards, and she asked the paramedic that was there, because he was there giving his report, is he going to be okay? And all the paramedic says, I don't know, there's too much blood.
Really? Did he stayed in the house, correct?
He stayed in the house, barricaded himself in there until the police arrived about 20 minutes after that.
So it took 20 minutes for the police even to get there.
20 minutes for the police, yeah.
30 minutes for the ambulance, 20 minutes for the police, which has a man in your house barricaded with a gun. If he'd have followed you out or just come out of that house, he would have easily been gone before police arrived.
Easily.
Or he could have easily just started, attacking or gone to somebody else's house or done a lot of things. It's just an interesting point. It's not really a criticism on the police, but it's just one of those things where it's not as quick as we think, even to a gun call out, right?
No,
you know what I mean?
Now that you said that, actually, that was a fear of mine and my wife, is also him following us, right?
Absolutely.
So it kind of makes you think twice, like, should I actually go to my neighbor's house and bring them into this?
And bring them in. Yeah, you bring a whole lot. And for an interesting point, is it amazing that you had neighbors that opened up for you, where a lot of incidents they wouldn't.
I was on the deck, I pounded on their patio. The first person I seen him through the patio, I pounded on the window, and then I just dropped to my knees. I was starting to feel faint. I grabbed my arm, and the guy kind of looked out his door like, what's going on? And as soon as I said I've been shot, he's like, what? You've been shot?
Yeah, that's right.
And then after that, they're like, okay, come in, go to the bathroom, come here. And then they wrapped my arm in a towel and called 911, and they were very helpful, actually.
Did you know these neighbors at all prior to this?
No. Never met them.
So good for them. That's because a lot of people would have just closed their blinds and played dumb, not even have called the police in a lot of instances. So right. That's really, really good. So you're staying in the hospital. You were hospitalized after this. What was the extent of your injuries, and how long were you hospitalized for?
I was hospitalized for 7 days. First night I got in there, they did one surgery on this forearm. They did what's called a fasciotomy, so they actually cut the fascia around the muscle to relieve the pressure. It was swelling up so bad. So they cut the fascia, released some of the pressure, stitched it up, and then it was about another 3 days after that I got into surgery again. For down here, same thing, fasciotomy, went in there, cleaned everything out, bullet fragments, whatever's on there. They cleaned that all out. After that, 72-hour antibiotics, so I was on antibiotics for another few days after that. They had to watch me, which wasn't fun. There's no food, no drinking, nothing. The bullets...
Do you actually mind if we ask you to, can we see the scars?
For sure.
Just because I think for a lot of people, just the location, just how close it is, the proximity to your heart.
This is the one through the chest. It actually went in kind of on an angle, so it went in here. This is where it exited, right kind of in the armpit area.
Came out through the armpit.
The next one was up into the shoulder. It was almost like a downward shot. Not sure exactly how the angle went.
Yeah.
But it was a downward shot. And it came out the back of my arm.
Kind of back there in the star tattoo there, yeah. And just at this point, I think it's probably a lot of people are wondering. It was a 45 caliber Glock, was it not?
40 cal.
A 40 cal.
40 cal.
Okay, so it was indeed a very powerful handgun. It wasn't a small 22 or anything like that. No. So a 40 cal Glock. So so then again, but you amazingly spent how long total in the hospital?
7 days.
7 days. That's amazing. 7 days, and you were back up walking around, and yeah, that's a pretty incredible recovery, which is obviously really good. Has there been any? I know you talked a little bit about some loss of feeling in your pinky finger on the right hand.
Yeah, I lost a little bit of mobility. Like this finger, I can go up and down. In my right one, that's the extent.
That's not as much, eh?
It at first, my wrist, my arm, it was just from the injury itself. Like it worked itself out, but it was really stiff. I had no wrist movement. I could barely bend my elbow. Just slowly worked at that, and that's all coming back.
Nice, excellent. And everything else, the chest shot and the shoulder shot, everything there has healed up okay?
Everything feels all right. Sometimes when I work out a little bit, I kind of feel a little soreness in my shoulder.
Sure.
Some things being torn, but other than that,
yeah,
pretty well.
All in all, it's worked out as probably the best as it possibly could, eh?
Physical healings,
yeah.
Physical part's good. Still working on the mental.
The psychology, yeah. Actually, that just kind of a couple other questions I think that would be interesting. One of them just kind of, you know, if you can real quick, just when you first come back to that moment where you first saw that gun, because at one point you're going towards him thinking, oh yeah, this is a fight, the guy's drunk, whatever, you know, obviously there's that S&S feeling, but when you first saw that gun, did it register right away, you know, oh shit, gun? What, if you can remember, what was your first thought? What did that feel like when you first recognized that this was a firearm?
It can't be happening. This isn't right. This isn't real. Like this can't.
That cognitive disconnect.
Yeah, and then as soon as the first shot went off, it's real.
That brought it all home pretty quick.
Yeah.
What about when you first got shot? Because the way you tell it too, it sounds like you were fairly aware that you got hit in the forearm. Is that correct? Did you recognize right away that boom, I took that hit?
Yeah.
Was there pain? Was it what was the sensation, or what went? How did that change the mindset at that moment?
No pain.
No pain.
No pain. Lots of blood. That's the first thing I noticed is blood everywhere. There was just blood everywhere. I immediately got soaked from the waist down in blood as my arm was hanging down. Barely moved my arm. One of the first things I checked is if I could still use my arm, move my arm. Not so much. It was pretty much useless. Mm-hmm. And
so now is that the hand that are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Right-handed. So that would have been in a case where you would have had, even if you had a weapon on you, such as a knife, or in certain situations, firearms and stuff, that to access that weapon would have been pretty tough. You would have had to go to your offhand.
I would have, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Do you remember the amount of blood shocking you at all? Was there a moment where you thought, holy geez, that's a lot of blood, like I'm in trouble here, like, you know, I'm gonna die, you know, just because in a lot of instances the amount of blood, people are kind of staggered by how much blood there can be and will be in a real critical incident?
Immediately I thought I was in deep trouble, and then it wasn't stopping and it wasn't slowing down. So I thought I was going to bleed out.
So two other things, not stopping and not slowing down, were two things that you became aware of.
Very quick, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to bleed to death.
Yeah, and yet still at that moment, do you remember then a moment when you kind of got back on the clock where it's like you look at this, all this I'm sure is happening in a fraction of a second. It's not stopping, it's lots of blood, I'm in trouble. But then there's that moment where it's like, oh shit, he's still coming. And you take off, run into that back room. Does that all wipe clear now? Like, where are you at mentally now when you hit that back room and kind of get to that door? Is the forearm the concern? Is it just stopping this guy from getting through the door the concern? Where's your head at that moment in time?
Basically, when I got hit, I spun around. I looked at it for a split second, not even a second, seeing all the blood, and then I was off running to the back room because I heard him coming at me. As soon as he fired those shots, he kept coming. Okay. So then I went to the back of the room. I tried to do what I could with my arms. I pushed on the door, like I said. Main concern is family. Get away from the family.
Absolutely.
If I go, I go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So no concern for self at that moment. I mean, is it fair to say that you were single-minded in one aspect, and that's just the family? Make sure they do what you can. They're safe. Who cares about me?
Totally.
Focus in on that.
What I wanted was just my family to be safe.
Yeah. Now at that point when he's banging on the door and he finally, figures out to shoot through the door, Do you feel the second and third shot? Do you feel the chest shot and the shoulder shot, or maybe a slight back in your mind that, hey, that something got me, or where are you at with that?
I remember hearing the gunshot.
Yeah.
I don't recall these two. Actually, I didn't know I had these until the paramedics cut my shirt off and told me that I had two more.
So even though the paramedics took a half an hour after the incident to get there, when obviously at that point you're into parasympathetic backlash, you still are unaware that you have a chest wound and a shoulder wound.
Right.
Very interesting until the paramedics. Where were you at in that 30 minutes actually after that? Did you feel a big I mean, obviously you're losing a lot of blood, so you're going to be lightheaded and stuff. But did you feel the letdown, or were you still feeling like there's a threat here, simply because the police? The police, I guess, would have been there 10 minutes prior to the paramedics. Yes. But when was the big letdown? Was it when the paramedics got you and you thought, okay, now it's up to them, balls in their court? Was there that type of a sensation there?
Well, yeah, yes and no. First was just thinking, like, well, should I go back? Should I?
Oh, interesting.
Because I never actually seen my wife and daughter leave the house. I could have sworn I heard the door. It's listening really hard to see because she always slams the door. I could count on my wife slamming the door if she left the house. And I could have sworn I heard that, but I didn't physically see them leave. Okay. So also that was one of the first things I said on 911. Like, you got to get back there. I think my wife and baby might still be in there. Like, get over there.
So you at this point were at a different neighbors than where they ran to.
That's right. She ran south. She went out of the south end of our trailer and went right across the street. I went through the north side, jumped a fence, and then crossed the street and went to that neighbor.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay.
So I didn't see that. So I was kind of debating, like, should I go back? And then I was really dizzy. I could barely stand up. I knew if I went back, that would be it anyway.
That would be the end of it, yeah.
Then a police officer arrived. I can't remember her name, but she got there and on scene, and she talked to me, and she got my info, and she was also talking to 911 to kind of let everybody else know what happened. And then she had actually told me that, yes, your wife and baby made it out.
Good, awesome.
And that's when.
And that's when for you. So that was your primary motivation, that their safety, getting them out. And once you heard that they in fact made it out, they were safe.
Yeah.
That's probably where you felt a bigger okay.
Definitely. And that's when everything happened. Then I just felt really dizzy, really weak. My arm is the most excruciating pain I've ever felt.
So that's the pain, that's the fatigue. So there's that parasympathetic backlash, that moment, which is really interesting just because how psychological it is. Physically, as banged up as you were, the mentality keeps you driving, keeps you in a condition red to a large degree simply because you have one motivating factor. So I think that's really interesting that you can feel that and recognize that and share that moment of parasympathetic backlash when you truly feel, okay, I'm safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I did. After, when the police were there, you could look out the window and there were police cars and cops, just everybody. You could see across the fence there were police with their guns drawn on the house, and cop cars, and police behind the cars, and
just the whole deal.
Everything was there.
Wow. You know what? Thank you for sharing this with us. I just have a couple quick questions here that I think would be really interesting to hear your thoughts on. But just even real quick, prior to this incident, because I know we've talked and I know you were interested in in training prior to the incident. We didn't get together till after it, unfortunately. But what maybe give us a little difference on just your overview to your right to life, to self-defense training, to just all that stuff prior to the incident and now after the incident. I think it's kind of a great way to wrap this up. Just a couple quick thoughts on that, if you would.
Sure. Even like back in high school and stuff like that, I used to kind of get into a scrap once in a while, you know, something like that. But for the most part, basically a sheep, you know. I didn't think something like this would ever happen. You see it on TV, you never think it's going to happen to you, right? I've known that guy for a long time. My wife said, yeah, you know, he's kind of a jerk, he's an ass, whatever. But even she thought that this would never come. This would never happen. And then it happens. And it changes your world in a heartbeat. Yeah. Now I'm training and I want to train hard. I don't just want to make sure it never happens. I need to make sure this never happens again. Yeah. For me, my wife, my kids, everything. Yeah, it's amazing, and I really wanted to do this, and thank you for doing this, because I just think for all of our members, it makes it real, and for a lot of people, they have that disconnect because it hasn't happened to them, and like you said, you don't expect it, and when it happens quick, and there's no time to. It's what you do in advance, you know. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin, and you know, again, we just enjoy having you here, and look forward to a long you know, training career together. So you know, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, buddy. Thanks.